It's more than just your output, more than a bike. When you hear your shout out, you know it's all right. Put on your magic pants and let's go. We're cruising into the power zone. Clip in, set yourself free. Come on and take a ride with me. Know what you need to know and what's it all about. Everything you need, it's on the Clip Out.
Welcome to the Clip Out Podcast, episode 321. This is Crystal O'Keefe.
And this is Tom O'Keefe. 3, 2, 1, contact. It's the secret. It's the moment where everything happens.
Everything.
You have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, I was just going with it. I don't
It
know
was
what
a
that
show
means.
that PBS used to air called
Really?
3, 2, 1, contact.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, you know, I never watched the PBS on a regular basis.
Too good. Too good for the PBS.
I think it was just boring. So does that mean that I was too good?
You're saying I'm boring?
No, I'm
I see.
saying that you are a self-described nerd
Mm-hmm.
and you started early. That's all.
Some
Whereas
people are,
I grew into my nerdhood.
Some people are born nerds. Others have it thrust upon them. And I thrusted it upon you. It's okay. We're married.
Yeah, we are.
So we have a new website.
We do.
Same old address, but brand new website.
Yeah. So theclipout.com, if you haven't been by in a while, it's a good time to go check it out.
It is. It's very different.
Things have changed a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with all the helper bees and all the content we've been creating, and by we, I mean everyone but me.
That's true. You are the only one
Yeah.
that hasn't done anything. Oh, that's interesting.
Came up with the name of the show. Isn't that enough?
I mean, honey, it's been 6 years.
have-
You still
you
leaning on that?
You still calling it the Clip Out? There you
Yeah.
go.
All right. Fine.
So there.
Fine.
But yeah, with all the content articles and stuff, we got a website refresh that makes it a little bit easier and more palatable to find those articles.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't just have to go to one place that says blog and hope for the best.
Yeah, and just kind of scroll on forever. Every story we've ever written chronologically.
Yeah.
Like,
it's-
ugh, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a horrible way to do it.
You can also now search on mobile.
Yes.
So like if you're looking for something, you don't have to go to a desktop because before that was the only way to do it. So if you're like, hey, what episode was fill in the blank? Just go search.
Yes.
You can search.
No
You
need
can-
to ask Crystal personally. And our website looks a lot better on mobile now too. So
It does.
So anyway, we're very excited about that.
We
So
are.
Swing on by and check it out
Yeah.
and see if you agree.
Let us know what you think.
Absolutely. So what, pray tell, do you have in store for people this week?
Well, Tom, I think we should share with everybody that we have a little bit of a change in programming. this
Yeah,
week.
I don't think it'll be
Very minor.
I don't think it'll feel radically different, but we just felt lately like the episodes are getting longer and longer. So
We're making a change.
yes,
And that is
keep pedaling. We're done.
we're done.
Thank you
That's it.
for tuning in.
Don't forget to row.
Episode over.
No, but so basically the big change is that we're going to be more selective about what news we bring to you. So we're going to try to limit the things that are the most important that you need to know. And then the rest of it that we still want to talk about is going to be over on Patreon. So it's kind of think of this as like what you need to know. And then if you want to know,
Yeah, there'll be more over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll still get a very solid episode. We're just being more judicious about what makes it into this episode and not bogging down with every instructor Instagram post
Yeah.
and thing like that.
Yeah.
So
you
because
probably don't want to know you don't need to know
Yeah.
in this episode every single thing that the instructors are now have a partnership with, for example.
Right. And there's like 9 of them.
There's a lot this week.
Yeah. So the thought process is we'll be a little bit more judicious. And also we just really felt like we were racing through episodes. They were getting longer, but we were spending less time on key things because
We know how long they are.
because there were so many things to talk about. So we're, like I said, we're getting more judicious about what we select, and then we'll take the other stuff that isn't as crucial, and that'll live over on Patreon as bonus content if you're so inclined and you feel like you've been robbed of content, it will still exist. We'd love to have you if you want to come over there, and you'll also get the episode ad free, and you get them early when we get them early, and you get things like this Friday, the day this comes out, we're doing a video chat with Patreon members, so that's things like that. So anyway, I guess that's a good way to segue into shameless plugs. There's more. I didn't
know if you still wanted me to go over what we're going to go over.
Oh yeah,
because I never did that.
Let's pause the shameless plugs. This will be very confusing for people on YouTube that like the chapter breaks.
Yeah.
Like, where do I put that now? So what, pray tell, do you have in store for people?
We're going to hit all of the highlights. Done. No. So we're going to talk about the bike seat replacement.
And that's it. Everything else behind a paywall.
The new stuff at Peloton Studios, what's going on in London. We're going to be talking about the All for One dates. And we're also going to have a visit from Dr. Jenn, how to stop focusing on the numbers, whether that's the calories, the scale, etc.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about the most important instructor news you need to know. And then we're also going to be talking to Angelo at MetPro. And then we have some news about Nike and BowFlex and celebrity content as well.
Awesome. Well,
now
shameless plugs. Okay. Don't forget, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, wherever you find a podcast. You can find us while you're there. Be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review. Don't forget, you can also find us on the Facebook at facebook.com/theclipout. While you're there, like the page, join the group. It's a great way to stay up to date on things throughout the week, especially as much content as Crystal and the Helper Bees, that's her band name, have been creating. You get it all right there in your feed, nice and easy.
I play the drums.
Oh, look at that. You can also find us on YouTube at youtube.com/theclipout, where you can watch these episodes and sign up for our newsletter where you get all the links and stuff at the newly redesigned theclipout.com. And finally, don't forget our aforementioned Patreon, where you can get bonus content and you can get ad-free episodes and invites to special video Zoom calls where we hang out.
And who knows what else? We're always working on things. So anyway, there's all that. Let's dig in, shall we? We shall.
Peloton in the news.
Good news for people chomping at the bit to get their replacement seat.
Their bike seat post. Yes.
It is now coming to them post haste.
Well, it's sooner than they expected.
Post haster.
Yeah, I would say that's more accurate.
Post haste ish.
Some reminders. When this originally happened, you were supposed to get it really, really fast. If you were a person who was kind of like in the top tier, which means that you, on your Peloton profile, you had filled it out and that you were over, I believe, 5'11".
I think so. And over 230.
That's what I was thinking. 230 pounds. Well, everyone decided to go ahead and ask for a new bike seat post replacement. And so that was more than Peloton expected. That took longer. But they had been saying it was going to be as long as December for some folks.
Right.
And now they are saying if you have ordered it by July 29th, you will have it by September 29th. So lots sooner for those people who had a really long lead times. That's really, really good news. And then can we just forget about the bike seat posts? That would be great.
We will forget about the bike seat post. Just like, remember when everyone was losing their mind about shipping delays? I do. And then it just went away.
I just thought it was funny because I posted this on the OPP, which is always scary when I do that. I'm always like, some people got in a fight over this because there was a person that was like, yeah, I got mine and I don't even know if I'm going to switch it out. And like, this lady came for him so hard.
I kind of don't blame her.
And then
that's the part of the problem.
I know. But then everybody attacked the lady for coming at him and it got real ugly. I was goodness. Like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah. But thank you for the engagement.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why there's such a problem is everybody was like, well, I don't need it, but give it to me.
And that's all that lady was trying to say.
And I don't even mind someone being like, well, one day, or what if I gain weight, or what if I have a growth spurt? preferred at 58, right? But still, I get that they're like, that you might be like, well, I want one. If there's a replacement, maybe eventually it will wear down, right, at a lower body weight. And so it just takes longer. Okay, but maybe let the people that are taller and heavier get it first. And then when it slows down, circle back around and ask for your seat post.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, we've talked about this before, but I wish that the powers that be in the government piece of this, the CPSC or whoever they are, I wish they had let Peloton say that from the beginning. Because and I know they're the holdup. I know they are.
All you got to do is look at Canada.
Exactly.
It's handled differently in Canada, and not radically differently in Canada, but in Canada, they were allowed to say, if you're over a certain height and weight, this is more likely to affect you. So we're going to try and prioritize those people. We're here. They, for whatever reason, they didn't let them.
Oh, we know the reason.
We didn't let them do that, or they didn't let them do that. So anyway, glad to see that is getting to people more quickly.
Yes. Agreed.
All for One dates have been announced.
Yeah, it keeps getting later and later. For those of you who joined Peloton fairly recently, you may not know, but this originated over 4th of July.
Yeah.
And all of the instructors took place in the same classes. And then we got so many instructors. And then, of course, COVID happened and that became impossible. So then it started taking place in August. This year, September.
I think it's like Easter or Passover.
It just moves around.
It's based on the calendar. It's based on like the moon cycles or Ramadan. I want to get all the big ones in there,
okay.
But it's based on the moon cycle, so it's constantly shifting.
Well, if
All for One fell later this year.
Well, if you haven't heard the specific dates, it is September 7th through 9th. There will be 32 different artists, 56 instructors, all of the instructors, and it will be over 3 days. So you will be able to do multiple classes and build your own festival at home. And can I just say how pretty this artwork was? It's just amazing.
So in a Clip-Out exclusive last week, we found out that PSNY and later PSN London,
PSL is what they call it.
Okay. Permanent seat license, like the NFL, has added a photo booth.
Yes, they have. So it's super fun. You get to go in and you get to choose what kind of background you have. You get to choose what kind of words you have. You can take one picture per person / couple / group, as many people as you can fit in there.
Right.
And then they'll either print it off. Well, they'll print it off and they'll mail it to you. And right now, email it to you. Excuse me. They'll print it off and give it to you, or they'll email it to you. And right now, people are really excited about it. So the thing is that London is getting theirs this week. But remember, London is closed from August 7th through September 22nd. They're getting an entire refresh. And so we can't help but wonder what else is going to happen over at Peloton.
Do you think maybe they're doing new fancy stuff
I do.
in London that they're also kind of retrofitting into PSNY?
We're going to talk about it in a minute that PSNY is going to be closed over Labor Day, and it's closed for an entire week. So my mind is just kind of like wondering what all of the things that are going to happen, because they're not just closed for the weekend of Labor Day. They are closed August 31st all the way through, I believe, the 7th.
I think they're closed for Labor Day weekend. This is my prevailing theory, that they're closed for Labor Day weekend because they know you'll be in New York.
Yeah, they were like, this girl, no way. We do not want this woman in our studio. No, I sadly, I have been saying for a while now, I had a feeling this was going to happen.
They typically have closed on Labor Day in the past, haven't they?
No, people have taken classes over Labor Day, but I just had this feeling, there were people I had reached out to ask questions and nobody was answering them. And it just felt like, we're not going to be open, but we can't tell you that yet. Like, that was just the vibe I was getting.
They can't tell you because you tell everyone?
Pretty much, yeah. Which is fair. So, yeah, I kind of had this feeling. So, this whole weekend needs to be about Brian anyway. We'll be visiting him his first week in college. And so that's okay. Like, I love New York. It's not like I won't have fun there.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's probably for the best.
Because I would have felt like pulled in two different directions.
Yeah, that we don't have to contend with it. Like, we would have definitely done our best to get you there. But now it's like, it's not even an option, so we can focus.
Yeah. But I do want to point out that when I was told about this, I was told that it is closed for studio maintenance and the holiday. So summer maintenance lining up with the maintenance that's taking place in the UK. I just think we might see some little cool things that are going to pop up, like the photo studio. Who knows what else is going to be there? I don't know.
Well, maybe what you'll see is Malin-Goetz hygiene products. That's my theory as to what's happening.
They're already there.
What? How did I get that right?
You are the Peloton prophet.
I am the Peloton. I got a button that says it. I also have a button that says parsnips. So what is that? Is that a thing? Is that exciting?
Is a thing. It is.
Is that a big deal?
Well, it's okay. So it's kind of like, it's sort of a big deal for people who go to the studio and like you go in, you use the shower and you're like, oh my God, it's like going to a hotel.
Right.
And you're like, this shampoo is amazing.
Is this a fancy brand?
Yeah.
It sounds like a law firm.
It's really expensive.
Like I just got served paperwork from
Well, I mean, it's about the same for an hour's worth of use. So
I just got served by Malin-Goetz. I had a process server show up in my door and just pour conditioner in my hand.
And I'm kidding. I don't know how much this costs. So I'm not saying for reals that it's $400 for that package, but I know it's not cheap. And this is like exciting if you really enjoy the products that you use while you're there. Now you can take them home. That's why it's exciting. So it's another way you can like take the Peloton studio experience home with you.
Oh, like when we go to Disney World and steal the Mickey soap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like that.
Every day I would like hide the new bar soap that they brought us so they'd have to give us another one. I think they were onto me, which is probably why they don't do that anymore.
You
now they just
are solely responsible for all the Mickey soap being gone.
Now they just have body wash.
Yeah, now they just have the entire thing like attached.
A jug on the wall.
And you just squirt now.
Yes.
The body wash.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
People say I'm the one with the...
I know what you were thinking. I could feel a joke brewing.
I wasn't thinking anything.
Oh, whatever.
I was just over here minding my own business. And all of a sudden, you're Red Fox over there. Which is a good time to talk about explicit ratings.
I wonder how people would rate us, explicit or not.
All I know is I'm the one who gets the bad rap. And so far this episode, you've made a squirting joke and dropped an F-bomb. But somehow I'm the problem here.
I learned it from watching you.
Well, you're welcome. Anywho, they're like, can we go back to the episodes where you rush through things? We're missing those ever so right now.
So there's a new update.
Yes. And you can, if you think there's too many naughties in a class, you can hit a naughty button.
Well, actually,
when you hit it giggles.
It's more involved than that because you always you can not only rate it, but now they have versions of rating. So,
right.
So it's like too explicit, just right explicit, not explicit at all.
And here's the fun part. If you rate enough classes, they will tell you Tipper Gore's leaderboard name. My first Red Fox and now Tipper Gore. My comedic references are as timely as today's headlines.
Yeah. So, I don't think this is rolled out to everybody yet. I think this was another, this is rolling out slowly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's out there now.
I'm glad it is. I mean, I know I don't use any of this stuff. I hate radio edits.
Well,
and I know sometimes it's the instructors that are cussing and not the music, but I think it's you're rating both ultimately, right? By how many swears
you are.
hear.
But I think the tricky part is going to be that some people there's a lot of people that responded when I posted this to is there a not explicit, I want it to be more explicit.
Not explicit enough.
Yeah, and there isn't, FYI. But I think there's just always going to be a gap of people that care and people that don't.
For sure.
Because you can drop as many F-bombs as you want in a class. It doesn't bother me.
Right.
So
I think also this is nice because I feel like there's a shifting parameter of what's considered explicit, right? Like 15 years ago, I think was a dirty word and it's still borderline, but I think people, if they hear, I saw a podcast today that actually used the phrase batch in their show notes, and it's a major podcast, almost not NPR, but NPR style podcast. It was called 99% Invisible, which is a great show, especially for nerds. And but like I was just surprised that I'm like that they just dropped the phrase "bat crazy" in their show notes, like it was no big deal. And I feel like 10 years ago, someone would have redlined that.
I have no doubt when you make me go back and watch old TV shows, we see that all the time.
Absolutely. It's also amazing sometimes what wasn't offensive then, and now we're like, what are they saying?
That episode of Mary Tyler Moore this morning.
That was a rough one this morning. A real rough one. Woof. So this is also a good way to kind of crowdsource that instead of it takes the onus off of Peloton of deciding what's explicit, right? Which
I think is the real reason, right?
Yeah, totally. And crowdsource it, and then collectively, if someone doesn't like it, like, well, the majority voted, and if you don't like it, that's what storming the Capitol is for. Peloton's new rowing metric graphic that we discussed has officially rowed out.
It has.
To everybody.
It's so
I'm trying
pretty.
to make a pun, but instead it sounds like I have a speech impediment, which I used to have.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I love the new row metric. I love that it's beautiful to look at, but I love that you are able to see, like, should I be working harder? Should I be working, like, do I need to move up to the next level? Yeah. Or maybe I just need to spend some time here and get better at it. So it is officially out there, though. Try it out and let us know what you think.
John Lewis and Partners, which is a department store, not a loss firm, currently locked in battle with Malin-Goetz. And for our American listeners, this is a big department store over in the UK.
It is.
We talked.
I think it was last year, maybe the year before.
Maybe the year
it's
before.
Been a while.
About their Christmas commercials. They're kind of notorious for having these amazing Christmas commercials, and some of them anymore are more social media based, and they can be 5 or 6 minutes long. But they're just amazing. They're like little short films that tug at the heartstrings. But
also they have a partnership with Peloton, which we talked about a couple of years ago.
And so they have started adding Peloton equipment to their website.
Yeah. So very much like Amazon or Dick's Sporting Goods. Yeah. Now you can go to the website and you can say, yes, I would like a bike. I would like a Bike Plus. And a tread, by the way, is on there as well. I just thought that was really interesting. It feels like it's smart for John Lewis to do. But I think that we will continue to see this growth of Peloton using stores, for lack of a better phrase, to do their distribution for them.
Well, especially I would think that this means they're probably in the stores too. Or,
yeah. That was what we talked about a couple years ago. They had like a thing kind of like Tonal does,
with
where
it's
pop-ups. Like, it was a pop-up, and that's how it started the conversation the last time we talked about them. So we haven't really chatted about them lately, but that was where the partnership started. And so this is just adding on to that.
And now for our Australian listeners.
Yeah.
Don't forget Peloton's going to be coming to City to Surf.
Yeah.
And they posted on their website everything you need to know about Peloton coming to the Down Under. Yeah,
there's a whole bunch of details here. So you're going to find out, first of all, everybody that's going to the race gets a special Peloton singlet, which shirt for you, Tom.
Okay. I was like a sniglet, like Rich Hall?
No. And then they tell you like exactly where Peloton is going to be located, where to meet up, where to find Tunde, when that's going to happen, because she will be there and you will get to meet her. So that is super, super cool. This is a huge event in Australia. So I think it's really cool that Peloton is going to be part of it.
Absolutely. And coming up after this, we're going to talk to Dr. Jenn. She's going to answer a question about how to stop focusing on numbers and metrics and things that make you feel bad, even when you're still making progress.
Getting the psychological edge with Dr. Jenn.
Joining us once again via the magic of ZoomTube is Dr. Jenn Mann, licensed marriage, family, and child therapist and sports psychology consultant. You may know her from VH1's Couples Therapy with Dr. Jenn, or VH1's Family Therapy with Dr. Jenn, or her long-running radio show, The Dr. Jenn Show. She's written 4 best-selling books, including The Relationship Fix, Dr. Jenn's 6-Step Guide to Improving Communication, Connection, and Intimacy. It's Dr. Jenn. Hello.
Hi. Hello. All right. So I have a question. I believe this was meant as a joke. Let me just say that first. But But here's the reason I'm including this. I think people really do struggle with this. This one was from one of our listeners and friends, Gordon Walker. And he said that the dang hotel bike is a full zone harder than his bike at home. Power zone struggle. And so, yeah, he's joking. But the thing is that is something, all of the original bikes, as you know, they're all different. Like you could be on two different bikes and have two completely different experiences, but it still drives people nuts. What are your thoughts on that?
And the same thing with the treadmill.
Yes, yes.
Like, I've got the original treadmill, and then I have the mini tread, and I've got the Peloton bike, and I've got the Bike Plus. So like,
they're all different, right? They're all different.
Yeah. I mean, I find I actually have more PRs on the mini tread than the big tread, even though I like the big tread better because I like the big screen and to have more room. So I get this. And I think that what you really have to do is make peace with the whole PR situation. And, anytime you get too focused on the numbers, whether it is the numbers on the scale, the numbers on the Peloton, the mileage numbers, the step number, I think it's good to be aware of certain numbers because, look, the 10,000 steps supposed to be good for heart health. I'll give you that one. But I think that when you do a 30-minute run, like, whether you're on one tread or the other, like you just got to give yourself credit for doing the run.
Yeah.
And I think that we get too caught up, especially us type A's. And I think there are a lot of us Peloton type A's. We get too caught up in the outcome and the numbers and beating the record and all that sort of stuff. And I think that there's a lot to be said for being focused more on the process than the outcome.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to give yourself credit when you don't feel like it doesn't look like you did your best, even though you did your best that day.
Yeah, no, look, I get it. And I also think that there are times in your life where it's even more important. Like, for example, my mom just passed away.
Right.
And when I am on my tread right now, I feel like I have sandbags attached to my ankles. Like everything is just a little bit harder. Grief does that. And so I'm just giving myself credit, like just be there. And I know at the end, I'm going to feel really glad I did it. And I have moments where I'm enjoying it, but it's a lot harder. It takes a lot more energy. And I think that it's important to give yourself that leeway, whether you're going through something in your life that kind of makes your numbers a little off, or you're on a different tread or a different bike or whatever it is. But I think that you got to give yourself credit for exercising and moving, because ultimately that's what makes us live much longer. And that's really ultimately the end goal, I think, for all of us.
That's the PR.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well said.
And really, I feel like the ones you struggle through sometimes are the most important ones, because it'd be so easy to not be doing it at all at that point. Yeah. And so, like, the fact that you struggled through it, at least this is what I tell myself, because I struggle a lot.
But it's very true. It's very true. Like, I had a run, and I've talked about it before on the show, that was a 45-minute hills run. This was probably 3 years ago. It's a Maddie Hills run. And I was like, before I did that run, I thought I could never do a 45-minute hills run. There's no way, because hills are really tough for me.
They're hilly.
They're tough on my back. Yeah, they're tough on my back. Yes. and also they're just really mentally challenging for me. And after I did that, I had this feeling of like, oh, I conquered that. Like, if I did that, I could do anything. I could do this other thing that I thought I couldn't do. And it really kind of opened doors for me.
You could do 21 miles at Big Sur, where 2 of those miles are a hill.
Straight uphill with 30-mile-an-hour winds coming at me and you.
Been to hill and back.
The windiest marathon Big Sur has ever seen.
Yeah, that was insanity.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like I need to step in and back you guys up, that like you're not just like
that hill.
That's not hyperbole.
No,
the hill is crazy, and the wind was crazy that day.
Yeah,
it was difficult to drive.
Yeah, well, Yeah, try being like not 3,000 pounds.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying, honey. You don't gotta call me out.
But it was like so much fun. Like that was the weird thing. Like it was so much fun.
It's fun now that it's in your rear view mirror.
Okay, those last couple of miles were not
The
fun.
last couple of miles were a lot less fun, and also the blisters on your feet.
Yeah,
like
those.
I was just thinking about the pictures of that. Like I'm having flashbacks right now.
I just remember being like, oh, that one popped.
I remember that. I remember you saying that and going, oh, that just doesn't sound good. Yeah. And it wasn't like a little blister. It was like the entire pad.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like this big.
It was like, oh
when
my
she
God.
first showed it to me, I was like, I don't see it because it was just her
My foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that like you go, I could do that. I can do anything.
Yes, absolutely. Really, it is very empowering.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all of that. Until next time, where can people find you?
People can find me on social media at Dr. Jenn Man, 2 N's on Jen, 2 N's on Man. And they can see our 21-mile run at Big Sur on my social media. I had a whole little montage video of our experience I'm very proud of.
As you should be.
And
You should be.
also, I do post my workouts on my stories.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Instructors in the news.
Robin Arzon had her baby, and it's a boy.
It's a boy, Atlas Sage,
Yes.
born on July 18th,
I don't
something
know.
like that.
I wasn't there.
It was only a couple days after Jess King's second baby. So we are looking forward to seeing how the babies play together. I'm sure we'll get lots of pictures of that. And of course, Robin was covered as an exclusive in People. By the way,
Yes.
I just want to remind you that we had Mitch Slater on the podcast a couple months ago. Well, his daughter wrote this article.
How about that?
Yeah, I thought-
Very spiffy.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool.
That's super cool.
He emailed it to me to make sure I saw it. I thought that was super cute too. Her
That's
name is
awesome.
Georgia Slater. So that's really neat. I love seeing these little connections with people.
Yeah. I saw somebody on the OPP. Can I relay a cesspool story?
Oh, yeah. So many.
Like, all just like, I'm so glad she's a fan of Ayn Rand. And because she named the kid Atlas.
Are you serious?
And I was like, Atlas is a Greek god, right? You know that Ayn Rand didn't invent the name Atlas, and it's actually a reference to something else. And since her daughter is named Athena, I'm going to go out on a limb and say she's going with a Greek god theme, not with a right-wing ideologue theme. But I could be mistaken.
I'm going to go with you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Erik Jager and Hannah Frankson are heading to PSNY.
This is so exciting. By the time you will have heard this, booking will have already opened and probably be completely gone. But it opens up on Thursday at noon Eastern. You can book 4 classes. There's going to be 2 for Erik. He's going to be doing 20-minute glutes and legs plus an intermittent core. So it's like a 30-minute class altogether that you get to spend with Erik. Then a 30-minute EDM run with Hannah. And then there's also a 30-minute dance music ride with Erik. And then a 20-minute 90s ride and a 20-minute 2000s ride with Hannah Frankson. Even though Erik typically teaches in German, he will be teaching these classes in English. So if you can't be there in person, at least we can all enjoy his classes in English while he is over stateside.
Matt Wilpers competed in a half Ironman and not only completed it, but got a PR.
That's so cool.
Absolutely.
My mind boggles at the fact that his half marathon pace after he had swam
Right.
and biked,
Yes.
then he ran 13 miles at 6 minutes and 30 seconds per mile.
That's crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that is some fitness there, folks.
Absolutely. Well done.
Yes, absolutely. Congrats, Matt.
So sad news from the world of acting that Kendall Toole responded to, but an actor by the name of Angus Cloud, and you might know him as Fez on HBO Max's Euphoria, really was a breakout character on that show, but he has passed away. And they've been a little
Vague.
withholding on information, which is something the media has done more lately when they think that they're worried sometimes when mental health is potentially involved that it can create copycats and stuff. So I feel like the media's gotten a lot better about not just blasting out that sort of information in a way that they used to, which is ultimately for the best. But Kendall was talking about mental health and stuff in relation to this actor because he had openly struggled with it in the past.
Yeah. He had struggled with depression, mental health issues in general, and addiction. And all of that was he had been very public about all of those things. And, but he was my favorite character on that show. It is just heartbreaking. He
was great on that show. And we've talked about, I think, Euphoria on the show before. That is just nightmare fuel for parents.
And he was like the bright spot.
Yeah.
And I know he shouldn't be because his character's still but
there was something about, and it sounds like they just, from what we read, they discovered him walking down the street and they were like, you would be perfect for this character, that it wasn't a far cry from his own personality, like not the criminal aspect of it, but just I think the stuff that people responded to with, even though he was a criminal, there was still this inner sweetness of a guy trying to do the right thing in a really dark world. And it's a shame.
It is a shame and very, very tragic. 25 years old, and our hearts just go out to his family. So sad.
People magazine talked to Ben Alldis and not Georgia Slater, Marissa Charles, although I understand Mitch Slater is in the process of adopting her. So his goal is to be the father of the entirety of the People magazine writing staff. So
I don't think that's
so. We
goal.
Wish you the best of luck, Mitch. But I guess he is alluding to the fact that
Ben Alldis is alluding to the fact
that is planning to be married by the end of next year.
Yeah, they just celebrated their 2-year anniversary of their engagement. Obviously, a lot of went down since they got engaged, and so that's been on hold. But it's going to be happening. So that is something that the Peloton community, I'm sure we will be there for every detail, watching every move they make.
And as much as Ben Alldis has been in People magazine lately, you got to think they've already sold the wedding exclusive
I would think
to People magazine.
Yeah. So we probably, as listeners, won't really know very much about it till about a week later.
Yeah. Olivia Amato has a new outlook, literally, because she posted on the gram all about her Lasik surgery that she was very, very excited to have received.
Yeah, apparently she had been putting this off. She really didn't want to do it. She was scared to death to do it. And
it would be weird to have somebody doing stuff to your eyes like that.
Absolutely.
I've read horror stories and I know that that's what they are. They're horror stories. They're very rare occurrences, but things do happen. But just to have people in there mucking around with your eyeball is like, ugh, that would be weird.
It would. It absolutely would. But the whole thing took 7.5 minutes and she couldn't believe it that she woke up and could see completely clearly. I mean, we've been hearing this story, about Lasik for years now.
Oh, sure. I've known so many people. I mean, people 25 years ago that got Lasik that were just like stunned by it. So I'm sure it's only gotten better.
Well, congrats to her for getting it done and being brave.
Tunde announced today, the day of that we're recording this, that she is going to start teaching HIIT cardio.
Yes, she tried to tease it, and people didn't get it. People did not get it. And so she was like, first of all, I'm not going to be teaching on the tread. Let it go. Like she's real tired of that being everybody's answer.
That's funny.
And also she was like, only 2 people guessed it. And so she's feeling like people are not excited about the HIIT cardio. So just pretend to be excited for Tunde. That's what she said.
Damn it.
So we're excited for you, Tunde. Congrats on that HIIT cardio.
Chelsea Jackson Roberts was talking about yoga and mental health as part of Minority Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah, she was. She was interviewed in a magazine, and they talked to her about this. And we've had Chelsea on the show before, so you might remember, Tom, that when we talked to her, she had talked about her background was from bringing people who were in like really tough situations into yoga and how that could heal them and help them with their mental health. And so she also has an amazing foundation, an organization that she belongs to and founded. That was part of her, I believe, her dissertation when she was doing her doctoral degree. And it kind of started there and then grew into the foundation. And it's something she feels very strongly about. So I'm glad that she got to share that. And I hope that it raises awareness for the foundation and continues raising money for them.
We have a couple instructors celebrating Peloton anniversaries. Becs Gentry is celebrating 5 years at the Peloton.
She is. I can't believe it's been 5 years already.
I know.
It really feels like yesterday.
And also Marcel Maurer is celebrating 2 years at Peloton.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, 2 years, it feels like, again, a blink of an eye since the German instructors started.
And there are so many more Peloton instructors than there used to be that, honestly, we probably only need about 4 or 5 more, and Hallmark will start making a card that you can get for a Peloton instructor. Like that's about, they're about at that tipping point where they're like, I guess there's a big enough market for this now. And coming up after this, we're going to talk to Angelo. He has advice for someone who feels like they've been out eating their exercise. So stick around. Joining us once again via the magic of ZoomTube from MetPro, it's Angelo here to answer your fitness and nutrition questions. Hello.
Hi.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back.
Well, we're glad you're here. Courtney Marissa, she is looking for some help. She says that she's been working out consistently for over 2 years. She's done cycling, strength, yoga, bar, but no weight loss. She knows she's stronger and she's very toned, but it's kind of frustrating. She eats pretty well, but she has an occasional sweet tooth. What do we do? What do we do for Courtney?
We can help with that. So you just, Courtney, you just described basically the majority of people that reach out to us, because that's the scenario is they're doing most everything right. Maybe not perfect, but they're doing all the right things. And simply put, here is why you're staying the same weight. Here's the technical reason. Your metabolism is acclimated to your current activity, and you are in homeostasis. So despite any nonsense where the treadmill says you just burned 600 calories, despite any height weight activity charts that say if you eat this many calories, you should be losing this much weight, your body has done what it's supposed to do and is keeping you alive by acclimating your metabolic rate within a margin to keep you in maintenance. And what has to happen is leverage needs to be applied to what you're doing. So this is what at MetPro, what we have discovered is there is a finite amount of levers, therefore enabling it to become a mathematical process. It's not as simple as 2 levers. We are biological creatures, much more complex than that, which is why people study and train their entire life to master this craft of manipulating body and body composition. But it is not infinite. So here's a abbreviated tour of someone in your circumstances, what myself or one of our coaches would be taking you through to break you through that homeostasis or that plateau. We would be looking at total hours spent in exercise over the course of a week. Can we increase activity, or are you at a reasonable threshold? If the answer is we can increase without being a drain on time or your ability to recover, then we can increase marginally. It sounds like there's not a lot there, Courtney, because you're already exercising. Now, can we optimize the type of exercise you're doing? A lot of times it's not a matter of someone doing anything right or wrong per se. It's simply a matter of not specializing enough to move the dial if weight loss is desired. So we would evaluate okay, let's say you're exercising a total of 9 hours over the course of 1 week. Can we allocate that time in such a way that you get a bigger metabolic return on your investment of those whatever amount of hours it is? We're going to optimize that. Now we're going to look at your food and your intake. We would baseline test to see what your average daily caloric rate is, what your intake is, and we also want to look at the calories that are coming in that are most easy for your body to convert into energy and into body fat, which is your carbohydrates. Once we know that, we would answer a simple question. Do we have room to decrease your caloric intake or decrease your carbohydrate intake without taking you too low or to an unsustainable or to a point where your body and your energy would decrease? If the answer is yes, we have room, then we would build a structurally sound approach to doing that where you're not going to feel hungry all the time. And that's by picking the right foods, having you eat throughout the day, including enough protein, pairing the right carbs, proteins, timing your fat appropriately to optimize. But there has to be a change. If we go through every one of the levers, and I didn't list them all, but if we go through every one of the levers and what we find is either everything has already been optimized or there's simply not a big margin of anything that can be changed, then we will recondition your metabolism to burn more calories. That's a matter of eating more meals throughout the day, eating earlier in the day, eating smaller but more often, thus the more meals, having you break your exercise up to maximize the amount of times throughout a 7-day period you get a metabolic spike, and systematically conditioning your body to get used to just a little bit more calories, a little bit more carbs, a little more calories without gaining body weight. Once your body is acclimated to that, which does not take as long as you'd think, it's not months and months, it's weeks, then you would have the ability to cut, change, adapt, switch something that will trigger more weight loss, Courtney. So it is doable. The key is it's not a magic number. It's a matter of contrast. And if you can create enough contrast in your diet and training, you can lose more weight if that's your goal.
Absolutely. Seen it happen a million times.
Yeah.
Love it.
It is I still am stunned for when, like, my first day sitting down with all the food.
Yeah.
And it certainly felt like all
like every
the
piece of food ever.
Yeah. Just being like, well, this can't be right. How am I supposed to lose weight when I'm eating 7 eggs? Like, that's
I'm not going to make you eat 7 eggs, Tom. It's just weird.
Yes, I am weird. I put a very big asterisk on that. But it was so much food. So much food. So yeah, it's counterintuitive, or at least to my intuitive. But it'll get you there.
It will.
So, yeah. So if people would like this tailor-made for them, where can they find you?
MetPro.co/TCO.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Checking out the competition.
Interesting news from the world of Nike, which is they are launching a fitness app.
They are. And so when we wrote this article, for some reason, people missed the part where it was an app. Like, people are only reading the part where it's like a boutique fitness studio.
Yeah. And it's like they are opening studios.
That is happening.
There is an app to go along with it.
Yeah. And it's directed for people to be able to work out at home.
Right.
And so we can't help but wonder if they are trying to be a direct competitor of Peloton. And hey, they have the money to back it up, just like Apple does.
Right.
And the difference between like Apple and Nike is that Apple doesn't seem to want to do studios or equipment, things like that. Nike, they definitely are going down the studio path. Will there be equipment? I don't know. Also, people seem to think the feedback I got from this article was, well, it doesn't really matter because there's no bikes, but I don't know that that's true, because Peloton is very, very heavily, they feel very strongly about their strength game. They're trying to be the biggest there. And let's not forget the running. That's a huge part of Peloton now.
Absolutely. And Peloton's pushing their app. And if they have a competing app, it doesn't matter if there's a bike on it or not, because Peloton is more than a bike. And also, just because it's app only doesn't mean that they won't insert their own bike classes. So, it's not just about equipment sales for Peloton anymore. And I guess you also then have to ask yourself the next question. If this starts to gain traction, does that start to then encroach on any instructors who have sponsorship deals with Nike?
Yeah. And I just don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Like, that's going to get that could get very sticky if they start to feel like this new app is a true competitor. They're not going to want their instructors wearing Nike logos.
I don't know. I mean,
wouldn't think.
You wouldn't on the one hand. On the other hand, there was all the brouhaha between Peloton and Lulu, and they seem to have made up at this point. So
they haven't really worked together again, though, have they? I mean, they've been suing the crap out of each other, and I think that finally got resolved.
That's all done.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I have a feeling it's not going to be long until we see something with Lulu.
Probably not. That wouldn't surprise me. But also don't forget that Lululemon is trying desperately to unload the mirror.
Also true.
You get one free with every purchase now. I think that's what they're doing.
Speaking of competitors, they are also they have gone mirrorless. Now you can do all of the app stuff without a mirror.
Yeah.
Now you can just use their app without a mirror. I just thought that was fascinating.
I didn't realize that. That's funny.
That's new as far as I'm concerned.
But it definitely seems like Mirror is not a true competitor, and the company regrets it.
I meant from an apparel standpoint.
Gotcha.
That's where they were the competitor with Peloton.
That's true. And while we're talking about that, we should also talk about the fact that Nautilus is doing a rebrand for BowFlex.
Yeah, they're doing a completely new rebrand, and it kind of seems to be a similar thing where they're doing an app and they're trying to kind of be that brand for everyone to meet them wherever they are.
Yeah. It's funny that the picture is someone on a bike. Is that a BowFlex bike or is that just stock art?
I truly do not know.
Because I was like, BowFlex has bikes?
They do, though. They do.
I always thought of BowFlex as the big giant, weird octopus arms standing up in the air.
Because remember, it's Nautilus is the name, the big brand, but then they own all the things. Yeah. And so BowFlex has a whole bunch of different things.
Gotcha.
Peloton celebrity sightings.
The Associated Press did a feature on First Lady Jill Biden this week, and she talked about her love of Peloton. Not that she's riding one here, just to be clear.
She is not, but she did say that she was doing classes all the time, and it helps keep her fit. I knew that Joe Biden was a Peloton rider, but I did not know that Jill was as well. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. This bike looks like the same bike Kermit the Frog rode in the original Muppet movie.
It does. And I also hate that they use this picture of her because her posture is not great in this picture. She looks like she's going to fall.
She does.
This looks a little unsteady, which sand is not the easiest thing to ride on.
I wouldn't think. I was like, riding a bike on the beach, that seems like that would be difficult.
If it's real packed, it's not bad.
Right.
But you never know when you're going to reach an unpacked part.
Peloton artist collaborations.
We have new Lanebreak classes, and they are part of the Motley Crue Artist Series.
I am so looking forward to this. A 15-minute warm-up level and a 30-minute level featuring the best from the most notorious rock band in the world. 45
Led
minutes.
Zeppelin?
No. Notorious. Not.
Yeah. Led Zeppelin.
Okay. Well, these kids today, they don't listen to the Zeppelin.
They don't.
I hate Led Zeppelin.
Oh, that's a shame.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, because if
they're right up there with who's the Grateful Dead?
The Grateful Dead are the worst. That is, I do not get the appeal of the Grateful Dead in any. There are lots of bands that I don't like, but I get the appeal of. Grateful Dead, I don't get on any level.
Well, I love the Motley Crue, and I am looking forward to this because I love the instructors, and that is so fun. But just to have a class, no distraction, just the music. And love it.
Motley Crue would be perfect for something like Lanebreak.
Yeah.
Absolutely
lots
perfect.
Of changes in the music. Yeah.
For sure.
It's awesome. I'm really looking forward to that one.
New content.
Barbie Mania has taken over the Peloverse. It's taken over just the verse.
It has.
Everybody's excited about the Barbie except certain specific men who have an issue. And whatever.
Yeah. Well,
the movie was great.
The movie was great. I don't care what anybody says. This movie was amazing. It is my favorite movie of the year thus far. Not Oppenheimer, whatever. Oppenheimer is a good movie. There is nothing wrong with Oppenheimer, but
it's a different cinematic experience.
It is very different.
Yes.
But you're going to hear all the Oscar buzz about Oppenheimer. But this movie is the one that deserves all of the awards, all of them. It's amazing. Anyway, there are some wonderful classes. I'm not a huge bike fan lately. I've been all about the running, and I took Olivia's Barbie class, and it was phenomenal. The music, the energy, it was a fun class. It wasn't over the top hard where you felt like you wanted to shoot yourself when you were done. She kept it a little calmer for folks like me. Great class. I haven't taken the other Barbie classes, but there's tons of them, and they've all got great soundtracks.
We have new foam rolling classes that have dropped for people, or I guess class singular.
Well, no, it's 3 of them. It's supposed to be foam rolling class drops.
Class drops, not a foam rolling class drops.
Correct.
Okay.
There were 3 classes that dropped, and the most exciting part of this is that Rebecca Kennedy has joined the foam rolling lineup. So she will be teaching foam rolling classes as well. We really love Hannah's classes, and I will continue to take those. But it's great to see that Rebecca has joined, because maybe that means we're going to see more of these foam rolling classes, and they are fabulous. Everybody should be foam rolling or using a Theragun, etc. You're doing a lot of classes. You need to stretch those muscles out. This is very important.
Do you know why Rebecca Kennedy started teaching these classes?
Why?
Because she had FOMO.
Oh.
You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome. People love the Jen Sherman epic sing-along rides, and it is back.
It is. There's going to be one 30-minute this Friday. So the day this airs, it will be happening live. It happens at noon Eastern on Friday, 8/4. You know, all the usual complaints. It's not 60 minutes. It's not happening on a weekend. I got to work. I know all that, people. I hear you. I really do.
I'm looking forward to the complaint when people complain about the singing on the sing-along ride.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah, we got that too.
I also don't like that there's bikes on these bike rides.
Yeah. I love her sing-alongs. One of my favorite classes. So even
What's
if I
with
don't,
all the running and the tread classes lately? I don't understand.
you belong on the OPP, sir.
I looked at it for 3 minutes today. See what happened?
Yeah.
It's like COVID. New Peloton gym classes have been added.
Yeah, 4 new workouts, 4 different instructors. So you are going to be able to take some more classes at the gym. Those are really going over well. People love them.
If you like your longer rides, you are in for a treat. Christine D'Ercole has a new 90-minute ride, and it's Power Zone.
Yeah, people love the Power Zone.
So it's for the true gluttons for punishment.
It is. This is only the second one that's in the library right now. There were old ones. They all got purged. So if you like your longer rides, go take it. Show Peloton you want more of these.
They want data. Mila Lazar has a 60-minute dance music ride. So some longer classes creeping in here.
There are. Yeah. We talked last week about Tobias had the 75-minute. Matt Wilpers had a 75-minute Power Zone. And now we're seeing a 60-minute dance music ride. We usually do not see these longer rides when they're themed. So again, everyone, take the class. Show Peloton you want these longer classes. It's awesome.
We also have 2 new split training programs for people to check out. Well, we don't, but Peloton does.
Peloton does, yes. Ben has a 3-day intermediate and Jermaine has a 5-day split. So there is a whole article over in the clip out that breaks out the differences between those two and when you might want to use them. But the idea is their classes set out for a week and you repeat them over and over again. And as you do that 4 to 6 weeks later, you can then see the progress you've made.
And learn to do the splits.
Right. Yes. That is the takeaway. Absolutely.
Also, we have a German summer break series that began on July 31st. So it's currently occurring.
It is currently occurring. And this is something they did last year as well. All the classes will be in German, and it's just kind of to celebrate the summer series. And even though the studio is going to be closed on 8/7, this will wrap up just before that. So we have all of those classes, and you can take a virtual tour of Germany's vacation destinations while you take the class.
It's kind of interesting actually to see where we know where Americans vacation, right? We tend to go to like Mexico or the Caribbean. So it'd be interesting. It's always fun to see where other people vacation. It's one of the favorite aspects of Locked Up Abroad. You always find out where people in Europe like to vacation.
Are you going to go to take these classes then?
No, absolutely not.
I just thought I'd ask.
For our British listeners, we should explain. Over here, they call it Locked Up Abroad, but we know over there they call it
Banged Up Abroad.
Banged Up Abroad, which over here is actually a porn series.
In case you missed it.
And we have our TCO Weekly Top 5 for people.
We sure do. First up, we have the 30-minute HIIT row with Alex K from 626. This one is power-packed HIIT. So it's lots and lots of interval training. And Kathleen Arthur loved it. Got into the red zone on the row. Then we have a night out with the crew. So the 30-minute Motley Crue ride with Sam Yo on 727. I loved this class. Nikki is the one that told me about this class. Then I took it. Absolutely loved it.
I heard him play Live Wire, which is my favorite Motley Crue song, so I approve of this ride I'll never take.
And the clip out in general loved this. We had so many people suggest this one. We also have the 45-minute outdoor ABBA walk with Jess King. Again, several members spoke up about this when the music was perfect. It had a great vibe from Jenny Davis. Nancy Nielsen said she was that it was a fun walk to do on a Saturday morning. And then we had a 10-minute core strength from 728 with Rebecca Kennedy. This is one that people absolutely loved. Maria Baranito said that she takes 10 minutes to break down the proper way to perform a bicycle crunch, which is not as easy as it sounds. And then number 5, finally, we have the 30-minute Barbie ride with Olivia Amato. This was especially fun for the Clip Out writing team. Several of us jumped on together to celebrate that Tina was doing her 300th ride. So that was really fun to do live, but the entire class was great. Everybody loved it. And of course, we love Brittany Allen's Barbie-inspired fit as well.
Peloton birthdays.
It is August, so the birthdays are ramping back up. We've got 3 this week. August 5th, we have Jess Sims.
Happy birthday, Jess Sims.
And on August 6th, we have Alex Toussaint.
Happy birthday to you, sir.
And on August 8th, we have Olivia Amato.
Happy birthday, Olivia.
So if you see the instructors online, or I guess in real life, be sure and wish them a happy birthday on the appropriate day. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Christy Bullock, and she has a fascinating story and a little scary. She was internally decapitated, which is something I've only heard about recently because it was a news story about a little boy who did it and survived. Well, it happened to her, and she's going to tell us all about it. You're definitely going to want to listen, and it's coming up next.
Checking in with the Peloton community.
Joining us today via the magic of ZoomTube is Christy Bullock. Hey, Christy, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We are so glad to have you here today. I know you've had a rough road, a crazy road, and we are so appreciative that you are here to share your journey. Now, for those of you listening at home, you know that I typically start with asking people like how they got involved with Peloton, but Christy has a very, very different journey. And so we're actually going to start on the other end of things with what happened. Like, how did you get here?
Well, so you actually don't know this part of the story, but so I'm going to reroute that question a little bit. So I actually got started in Peloton after I got COVID.
Oh.
Back in 2020, I was working as a paramedic and I got COVID from a patient and I had a really bad bout with it.
Oof.
And I was out of work for 3 months. I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks and I had a really long recovery from that. And so I bought Peloton to try to get some of my lung function back.
Yeah.
Because it damaged my lungs so much. And so I had it for about a year before my accident. And then, so we can talk about that if you want to, but it's kind of interesting that I got into Peloton for a medical reason. And then I got out of Peloton for a medical reason.
It is. Yeah. What a journey there.
Yeah, for sure. So did you get COVID it sounds like you got it pretty early in?
Yeah, you got it in 2020.
Like before they really had treatments and things for it?
I got it in October of 2020 and I didn't have to go to ICU, luckily. I wasn't on a ventilator, but I just had a lot of problems with it. Yeah. And it really took the wind out of me, so to speak. My stamina was just nothing. I was just always short of breath after that. And then, so I got into Peloton thinking, well, I can do this in the privacy of my own house because I have a lot of social anxiety and maybe I can get some lung capacity back. Sure. And so that was how I got into it. So
were you able to get any traction there before your accident?
Mm-hmm. I feel like I was. Yeah. I did. I never got real intense with it. I was kind of a slow slow and easy type
That counts too.
Peloton user, but I did very much enjoy. I don't know how you pronounce the name. Tunde.
Yeah.
Tunde, yes, she was my favorite.
Aw, she's great. We actually were lucky enough to get to interview her right after she first started at Peloton, and
really,
she's just a ball of energy. She's just a lovely lady.
Yeah, we actually interviewed her like right as the pandemic was starting because I remember
that's true.
I was in California on a business trip,
that's right.
and so my plane landed and I rushed here to do the interview, and she was actually 10 minutes into the interview as I walked in the door, and I remember I was just starting to, and this would have been, I guess, February of 2020, because I remember like, it's weird, about 30% of the people at the airport had masks on. That's unusual. Like it was starting
just
to percolate.
Before. Yeah. So I guess it was the next month that everything shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that just a weird time? That was just a weird time. I say to Tom all the time.
And I think because of COVID, I had to wait like 3 months from when I ordered to when it was delivered. It was quite a while.
Yeah, you would have been right in that window where those time frames were really long on the delivery. Man, it's just, I feel like that whole time frame, we talk about this all the time, that it's like, it feels like there's like 2 years missing out of our life. And I feel like, especially given what you've been through, that's probably even more magnified for you.
Yeah, time is definitely a weird construct to me right now.
I bet. So you had the bike, you were getting over COVID, kind of getting back to what normal was for you lung wise and trying to exercise. And then how did things come about with the accident?
So I was riding the Peloton, trying to get some lung function back. I was back at work, pretty much as back to normal as I could be. And then pretty much exactly 1 year from the COVID, I had a motorcycle wreck. I was on my own bike. My dad was in front of me. And I wasn't a new rider. I had been riding for years. I don't really know what happened. I wasn't doing anything crazy. I just, for some reason, there was a sharp left curve and I didn't make the curve and I hit a guardrail. And I was internally decapitated. I had broken multiple ribs, my back in 3 places. I had a really bad fracture of my leg. I had all of my internal organs pretty much were bruised or bleeding. I tore my carotid and vertebral arteries. I always forget something. There's like a list this long of all my injuries. So I always forget something. It's usually the back. I always forget that I broke my back. But and then 2 weeks after that, while I was still in neuro ICU, I had a complication that is like unheard of. So I'm kind of like a medical anomaly, but I had a delayed onset of hydrocephalus. So basically my brain was it had kind of shifted a little bit. And so your CSF fluid in your brain, it's supposed to kind of circulate, but mine had got blocked up and they didn't know. And I went into respiratory arrest, blew my pupils, lost my gag reflex, and was entered into their system to be an organ donor.
Yikes.
Because my sister, the only reason I know that, my sister works for that hospital, and that's what she does. She takes care of the organ donors until they go to harvest, and they had to lock her out of everything, and it's something I should not have come back from. Yeah. I should not have come back from the initial accident, from the hydrocephalus. Then there was the liver infection and bad pneumonia and just a whole, it was an ordeal.
My goodness. Yeah.
It's been, October will be 2 years, but I feel like I'm just now getting where life is not so difficult now.
I honestly cannot even imagine that. Like when I was hit by the car, I had a concussion and I had a couple broken pieces out of my back. I had a broken collarbone. All stuff that heals really fast and easily, with the exception of the concussion. But that really messed with my head, literally, because I couldn't remember things and I couldn't do things as easily. And I felt so frustrated and lost just in the couple months that it was really bad. I can't imagine how hard that's been for you for almost 2 years. Like that, there had to have been times where you just felt so lost. I mean, I know that's how I felt, and it was such a small time frame.
There's no really handbook for, it's kind of like when someone passes away, everybody surrounds the family for like the first little bit, and then life goes back to normal, and that family's got to figure out what their new normal is. And I think that was the part. And like on my YouTube channel, I kind of talk about that some, just like, so that people can see, they can kind of see me process and everything, because I had to learn to do everything again. I can't work anymore. So I've just kind of had to figure out everything. And my story was so crazy. We started getting people always wanting the details. So that's what started. And it was actually the APM group we talked about on Facebook that gave me I love that group. And I posted in there like a little bit of my story. And I was like, am I crazy? Like, would this be interesting if I were to start a YouTube channel? Because I feel like I have something people want to hear, but I don't know. But they kind of gave me the courage to just post that first video telling my story, and it like blew up. That very first video is still, I think it's over like 500,000 views now. That's still my best video. And it was the very first one I did, but it was the average Peloton mom group that kind of gave me the little push I needed.
Yeah.
The Peloton community is really magic about that, that we all encourage each other to do things that we wouldn't necessarily have the courage to do on our own. And I'm really glad that they did get you to share that, because we wouldn't be talking if somebody hadn't seen your post and connected us. So I feel like, and that's the other magic of the Peloton community. And if you don't mind, can we dig into what that internal decapitation means? Like, it's
sure.
I don't think everybody is familiar with that term, because it's a pretty rare occurrence, right?
Sure. So are you familiar with NASCAR at all, Dale Earnhardt?
I mean, I'm aware
that's what he died of.
Okay. I did not know that.
So what an internal decapitation is when all the ligaments that connect your head to your spine are severed. So 70% of people die immediately. They don't even make it to the hospital. And then the rest of them usually die within the first like 24 hours from either spinal cord, or they throw a blood clot. And then the ones that make it out of the hospital, the very small percentage that survive it, most of those people are quadriplegics and have all kind of spinal cord issues. And I somehow, not only did I have the injury, but mine was like an extreme, it was like 4 times what's supposed to be survivable.
Whoa.
And so I survived it, and I can walk and I'm not normal. I have limitations, but for the injury I had, my recovery is pretty much unheard of.
Wow. Is there any sort of idea as to why? Is it just a fluke? Did you get a really good surgeon? Like what happened?
Well, my neurosurgeon, Dr. Godzik, is a rock star. He wasn't before. He is now. We've asked this. Yeah, he doesn't know. It just kind of blows his mind too, and blows my mind, because he told my husband, they let my husband see me before they took me to do surgery, and he pretty much told my husband, there's a good chance she's not going to live through this surgery, whether it be neurological complications or throwing a blood clot, because I had tore my arteries too. But he was able to kind of reduce it as much as he couldn't do it all the way because I kept my vital signs kept bottoming out. So he just kind of had to fix me in place.
Wow.
And I guess I just refused to die. I don't know.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yay for being stubborn.
Right. So
Very stubborn.
how did you find out about all of that? Right. Like I'm like you're not, I wouldn't think cognizant while while the initial surgery is going on. So were you out for a week, for 2 days? Like how do you kind of come to and learn your situation?
I don't think I understood the full extent of it for a long time. And I'm talking about months.
Yeah.
Because one of my earliest memories, I remember I was still intubated. So I was still on the ventilator and I had the halo that screwed into my head and all that. And I can remember opening my eyes and seeing my stepmom and she was crying. And I remember thinking, what is wrong with you?
Get it together, lady.
I don't need to see that.
And then every time, like, I would hear my husband talking to people, or anytime I would just hear them talking about my situation, I remember thinking, like, why are they being so dramatic? This is like, I just thought they were being very dramatic. And when I finally got into rehab, I remember, I think I was just in denial because I remember thinking, well, I'm not one of these people. I don't need all this help. And y'all are just being really dramatic. And is this really necessary? And and looking back, of course, I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. But like I would get in trouble all the time for getting myself on the bedside commode without help.
So real stubborn.
I would use my slide board and slide over, and then I'd get in trouble because I didn't call for help. And I just remember thinking it was all a bit ridiculous. I don't think it ever sunk in. I think it took multiple conversations with my neurosurgeon talking directly to me months later for me to really, so it really was that bad and they weren't being dramatic. He was like, no.
Was there a moment where something just really clicked into place that you realized how bad it was, or was it just like a slow realization?
It was probably a slow realization, but I think when I heard the things come out of Dr. Godzik's mouth that had been coming out of my husband's mouth, because I just really kind of thought my husband was just being dramatic. But then I heard my neurosurgeon say all those things, and I was like, oh, so Lee wasn't exaggerating. It was really that bad.
Yeah, I was like, normally husbands are more like, you're fine. How about the laundry now? Like, that's how husbands are. So when husbands are like, sweet baby snow peas, this is awful, like they're probably telling the truth. Yeah.
And one of my earliest memories when they told me what happened, I remember laying in the hospital bed. I remember hearing my dad talking to somebody, and he was saying, it's the same injury that killed Dale Earnhardt. I live in Alabama, so everybody down here knows who Dale Earnhardt is.
Sure.
And I just remember him saying that repeatedly. It's the same thing that killed him. It's the same injury. And I, again, thought he's being dramatic.
Right.
He wasn't. I was just in denial, I guess. I don't know.
How long were you in the hospital?
So 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
That included rehab too. So I was in neuro ICU for like 8 or 9 weeks.
Wow.
And then I went to a trauma ICU for just a few days. And then I went to Spain rehab for 3 weeks.
Wait, what is that?
And then I came home.
What was that last one?
Spain rehab.
What's that?
So it's like people who have had spinal cord injuries, strokes, things like that. It's an inpatient rehab to try to get you stronger so that you can go home.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And learn to, they kind of help people learn how to function with whatever injuries that they got to live with now. Like when I first came home, I couldn't even set myself up in the bed. I couldn't fix my food. I couldn't walk, stand. I couldn't really quite helpless looking back. But in my own head, I never thought of myself as helpless, but I was.
Wow. I feel like I'm trying to imagine what that would be like. And I feel like it would just be like this cloud of time. Like it wouldn't feel real. Was that what you experienced? Did it feel differently to you? I'm just trying to put myself in that position, and it's impossible.
I think it's kind of like a marriage. In some ways, it feels like you've been married forever. In other ways, it feels like it was just yesterday.
Well, a happy marriage.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes total sense.
Does make sense.
I'm just like, but the first marriage just felt like forever, right? But the second marriage feels like what you just said.
So COVID, when I had COVID, that was just child's play.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet you were like, oh, I just thought I was sick. I bet I just thought that was a long.
COVID was my first marriage.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy.
So I just can't help but think like, I hope you have good insurance.
I know. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I know what our bills are for, and I was in the hospital for 24 hours.
We're square on medical bills, so I don't want to put anything out there that make people think we're like asking for money.
Right.
But, so you know how you get the statements from the hospital?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So not for the whole 3 months. The first day, October 8th, 2021, the first 24 hours, we got that statement. It was $1.3 million.
Holy shit. That's yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
I
shocked.
don't remember what the rest of it was.
Doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
I just know that first less than 24 hours, really, that statement was $1.3 million. And then insurance paid however much they paid. And then we owed some of that, which there was a GoFundMe. And
good.
So we did have some help with that.
Sure. And that stands to reason.
And you know what? Like, don't feel like you shouldn't be proud of that, because you should, because people, that is not a small thing. Like even a percentage of $1.3 million is like a tremendous amount of money for the average person.
Yeah, you can't expect the average person to be prepared for an incident like that.
No.
And it's really sad that people have to use GoFundMe.
For sure.
It is.
Like a healthcare supplement now.
Yeah. I always think that when you see these stories where like, oh, it's this heartwarming story of people banding together and doing this GoFundMe. And I'm like, a more heartwarming story would be like if people didn't need to do that.
Amen.
You know?
Yeah.
But especially in a situation like this where it's like I said, you can't reasonably expect someone to be able to foot the bill for something like that.
All I keep thinking about is like health savings account, or those insurance plans where they have you on the high deductibles. That's what I keep thinking about, and how they're like 10 grand for like one person is like, that's how much their out of pocket max is. And I remember the first time I saw that years and years ago, and I was like, my God, what would have to happen to you to have a $10,000 out of pocket? And I feel like you hit that easily.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what else is really messed up that a lot of people don't think about until they're in that situation. But so I was working as a paramedic when I had that accident, and I had health insurance through my employer, and it was free for just me. My husband also is a firefighter paramedic, and because I was injured so severely and couldn't work anymore, they kept me on that insurance until January, but I couldn't go back to work, so I lost my health insurance. And then luckily I was able to get on my husband's plan through the fire department for not too much extra, and we made it that way. But I kept thinking to myself, well, what if I wasn't married? What if he didn't have a job that had, like, what would we have done? And people don't think about that, but it's such a messed up system when someone can get cancer or be in an accident and they need the health insurance, but they get dropped from it because they can't work. And that's where disability is supposed to step up. But of course I applied for that, and it took a year to get my first denial.
Yeah, I mean, they always
that was your first denial. It took a year for the first denial.
Yeah, and it's like they always shoot everybody down the first time. It's just,
but a year.
Yeah, but then it's just like, And like in a situation like yours, like what more do they need?
Right.
Like I get that there are people out there that try to game the system, but like this seems pretty cut and dried, right? And so, and I know from what little bit I understand, whenever you do finally get on, like they backdate it to if you get approved to when you started, so you will get, but that can be a long wait. And
then you give however much to your lawyer.
The lawyer you had to get to be able to navigate the system, because there's no way you'll ever do it on your own. Yeah, it's
the whole system sucks.
Yeah,
let me just say
it does. But I've thought a lot about what would we have done if I was a single mom or just, you know, I wasn't able to get on his insurance. What do people do? I mean, they go bankrupt. I can't wrap my brain around that.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
So in that way, I'm very fortunate because obviously we had enough to deal with. I couldn't imagine adding that on top of it.
But I would think that on top of that, your husband probably had to miss a ton of work.
Oh, yeah.
While taking care of you to get, you know, because I would think that there was probably it had to be months, if not a year or more before you could be left alone.
I think he went back to work in either, I want to say February or March. February 4th. Oh, he's back there. He said he went back February 4th.
Wow.
And when was the accident again?
October.
October. Okay.
8th.
So yeah, that's a whole lot of work to miss.
It is.
You know,
I can't help but think how suitable both of your lines of work were, though. Like for you to have all this training to understand what's happening to you, him to understand how to take care of you.
Yeah.
I mean, not like, oh, that makes it easy, but it's just one of those things that, like, if that happened to Tom, I wouldn't know what to do or how to,
and vice versa.
Yeah, I would have no clue.
And that's another weird part of the story was, number one, it was my coworkers that ran me because I wrecked in the county that I worked in. And then the other crazy part of that story is my husband's second job is at the same place that I worked. So I was on A shift. He was on B shift. He had taken off that day to go on a camping trip. Had he been at work that day, he was a supervisor and it was the first call of the day, he would have ran that call.
Oof.
That would have been, so we're grateful that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But fortunately, you know, from the time of my wreck, the first people on scene were people that knew who I was and knew who Lee was. So I feel like I guess that's just a comforting thought to think, you know, you've kind of got that community that obviously wants the best for you. And I don't know how I made it alive because they had to fly me, and it was probably at least an hour from the time of the wreck till I got to the hospital.
An hour?
Whoa, that's a long time. At least,
yeah. Because it was a rural. I can't say it.
Rural?
It's my accent. I cannot say that word.
I have trouble with it.
It's a hard word.
It was out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Just say BFE. That's fine.
BFE, yes. It was BFE, and how they moved me without killing me is beyond. It's just crazy when you think about all the parts that had to.
Seconds matter in a moment like that, and you had to wait an hour, and not had to, like they were doing something wrong,
right.
But just by virtue of where it took place, like there's no quick way. Like, and then helicopter rides aren't known for their
stability,
gentle, soothing nature.
Luckily, I don't remember much of that.
I was going to ask,
the only memory I have of the helicopter was when I threw up all over the flight medic.
You know what? That's understandable.
Yeah.
And he took it like a champ, and I had just had a barbecue sandwich before that.
Oh, no.
So now barbecue's ruined for you too. So I was like,
well, it is for him.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember
like a champ though?
Do you remember anything from the actual accident? Like, do you remember anything from that day? I'm fascinated by this because of my own memories from being hit and
lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this really weird, like surreal moment. So I'm super curious about yours.
So I remember I knew that I was going to wreck. I knew that because I remember thinking I was just confused why I couldn't make this curve. I just remember trying to like lean and go around this curve, and for some reason I just couldn't. I don't know why. I wasn't going really fast. I wasn't doing anything irresponsible, but I just didn't make the curve, and I knew that I was gonna hit the guardrail. But as far as like a moment of impact, it was just like somebody turned off a light switch.
Wow.
And then the next thing I remember is I remember laying on the ground, and I could look up and see the sky, and I could hear my dad on the phone with 911. And of course he was freaking out, and I remember trying to scream, but it had messed my jaw up, so I couldn't like open my mouth. And so I heard that sound of myself screaming, and it sounded like a little squealing piglet. I remember that. And that kind of bothers me sometimes. And then apparently I went into work mode because the only thing I said to anybody was, I need a helicopter. And of course I got one, but I did tell them I need a helicopter. Like, still bossy.
Hey, it worked. I mean, based on results.
Yeah. Well, that's what I did for people. I ran wrecks and flew people, or, I made those decisions for people, and I don't really know what I knew. I just knew it was bad. And I guess I was trying to tell my dad, hey, tell them I need a helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much all I remember from that day. My next memories are probably a couple days later. I'm not really sure, but no, my husband's back there chiming in.
We're like that.
So he apparently, I don't remember any of this, but they let him see me in the ER, and the nurses, I later found out because they found me on social media and we would talk, and they told me that I refused sedation. They had intubated me, but I would not let them sedate me because I wanted to talk to my husband. I don't remember any of that, but if that's not true love, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I agree.
So no pressure there, Lee. But,
Yeah.
Wow, you were a strong lady.
Yeah.
Very strong lady.
So I'm curious as to, so you said you can't do Peloton anymore. You can't do the bike anymore. Mm-mm. And medically speaking, why is that? Why are you not able to or allowed to do that?
So how about I show you a picture?
Okay. We're going to be grossed out? What are you showing us a picture of?
No, nothing too gross.
Okay. I have a weak constitution.
I don't.
I do.
So this picture right here is before my surgery. This shows my injury.
Oh, wow.
That separation right there.
Yeah.
That's all supposed to be connected.
Yeah.
So that's the separation.
Oof.
And then I'll show you what my neck looks like now. So this is why I can't lean over.
Okay.
And like support my head because
it's heavy.
The only thing supporting my head now is that hardware.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I'm leaned over, just the weight of my, head kind of hanging like that, it's just too much on my neck, and my neck can't tolerate that.
That makes sense.
Do you miss riding your bike?
Is it bad to say not really?
No.
I think the only reason I say that is just because I'm so grateful to be able to do what I can do that
Amen.
I don't borrow trouble, and if I can only do this,
right.
I'm lucky to be able to do anything. So I'll take what I can get and try not to complain about the rest of it.
No,
Yeah,
I totally get that.
no.
Like, you can miss it, but it's also a small price to pay, given what the alternative could have been.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just really very happy to be here, and very happy that I can get back to a place where I enjoy my life and I get, sort of a new perspective on things. And it's like you gain all this wisdom almost instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is so true.
I think I'd prefer to be a little dumb.
Don't get on the motorcycle.
Yeah. Oh, I'm far too big of a puss to do something like that. That is not my thing. So
my husband's in the background giggling.
I saw Dirty Harry as a very young man. There's a line in that first movie where he says, "A man's got to know his limitations." I know my limitations. I'm very, very well aware of them. So do you ever get on a motorcycle anymore, or is that also
go ahead?
Can you still get on a motorcycle?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is that because of like the same reason you can't get on the bike, or you're just like, I'm not doing that again?
I'm not. So that's the number one question I get asked. Well, do you still ride? Or are you going to ride? And, if a cat has 9 lives, I used all of them up on that. Yeah. I'm not borrowing trouble. We have a camper, and before my wreck, we had bought 2 e-bikes to go on our camping trips. Mm-hmm. And my husband didn't want me on that. And I was like, oh, come on, let me do it. So I rode it down the driveway one day, and I was like, nope, it was too scary. I was just too nervous. My balance isn't great anymore. So I traded in my e-bike, and now I have an e-trike.
That makes sense. That
seems like a smart concession. You still get to participate, but
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in a way that makes you safe and comfortable.
Right. I've got 2 kids. I'm very happily married. There's so many things I want to do. It's not even worth the conversation of getting on a motorcycle.
No, I totally get that.
No, I totally understand that. Yeah. I mean, I can't even compare what I've been through to you. And like, it took me so much to go back out on the road and run again. Mm-hmm. Like that was so much. Like it was, and I had to do it for my own brain, but like, I don't do it on a regular basis. I just needed to do it to say that I could, but I don't like it. I can't get in the same headspace anymore. And I can't imagine.
I feel like yours is different in a way that like, I was doing something risky. It's my own fault. That's an activity that I was a paramedic, for God's sakes. I've run so many motorcycle wrecks. I've seen, and I still rode one like an idiot, but you were out jogging. Who's thinking about getting hit by a car when they're jogging?
Well, but conversely, we're the hardest on ourselves. Conversely, you'd ridden that motorcycle a million times. You knew what you were doing. You were a safe driver. And so I could say the same to you. You weren't drinking and driving. You weren't speeding. You weren't driving in the rain. You were just riding your motorcycle. And so who would have thought that would have happened? And so I think right back at you, yes, motorcycle riding is in theory riskier than running on a road. But at the same time, I was going through a freaking intersection at a crosswalk. I would have never thought in a million years that girl was going to hit me, but you wouldn't have thought that you were going to not make that curve. I'm sure you've taken that curve before. Mm-hmm. It's these things happen. And I think what's the hardest about it is that we don't have any control of what happens after that moment. It's a very, very scary feeling for a person who is described, I self-describe as a control freak. So having to just like be okay with how fast I healed and having to just be okay with, not remembering things and getting back to life. Like that's hard. It's really, really hard. And so, you have a lot of strength in a lot of different ways that I don't know that you even realize because you just did it. And that's not something that just anybody can do. So I think you're pretty awesome. It's true. It's true.
Are there other things that that you have to cross off your list of things that you can do? Like this is going to sound like a dumb question. I'm a nerd. My first thought is like, if you go to Disney World, can you still do the ride? Stuff like that.
That's a good question.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So just getting in the car and driving to the grocery store, like if somebody were to hit me, like rear end me, I mean, it could kill me. So I still need another neck surgery because my injury was so severe that my bones weren't able to fuse. So the only thing holding my head to my spine is that hardware.
Oh my God.
My doctor really wants to go in and he wants to take either ribs or part of my pelvis and put in my neck. And I'm not willing to do it right now because everything I already went through was so awful that so we've kind of have an understanding. We're playing it like month by month.
Right.
And when he sees signs of a compromise in my hardware, then I'll agree to do the surgery. But until then, at the risk of getting rear-ended and getting killed, I want to enjoy my life as much as I can while I can. And I just am not at a place where it may be stupid of me. I don't know, but I don't want to go through that surgery right now. And so we're just kind of like walking that tightrope of when to pull the trigger, on that. And
that's
I
tough.
hate that it has to be like that, but I just...
No, you know what?
I get that.
I mean,
you've had the medical world involved in your life, I'm sure, at this point for so long that you just kind of like need a beat.
And it's traumatic what you went through. Like that is trauma. And I've been doing a lot of therapy, EMDR, and it's helped me tremendously. I don't know if you've ever looked into that, but just like being able to accept things and process things because it's easier than just like trying to push it down, which is what I was doing before. And, but yeah, it makes perfect sense to me that you don't want your body is rejecting the idea of you doing that surgery because it is putting yourself through that trauma again and you don't want to. Yeah. And I don't blame you for that at all. I can understand it.
I want to be smart about it, but I just can't do it right now.
I totally get it. It's a risk, but it's a calculated one. You're still observing what's going on. If there's a material change, you're prepared to address it. But in the meantime, you just want to catch your breath, which I totally can relate to as much as someone who has not gone through that can relate to something.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you get to do any kind of like movement? I mean, I don't know if whatever you do, you call it exercise, but like, can you like get any movement, get your heart rate up at all? Does that even appeal to you?
Honestly, we went to Target, I think yesterday or the day. Anyways, my husband and I went to Target recently and I was a nightmare of a human being because my heart rate was up. I was struggling. I was tired. And I just, after everything that happened and being sedentary for so long, and I have no stamina at all. So just doing like a few things around the house or going to the grocery store is difficult. But we just bought a new camper and we have a trip coming up, and there's a trail around the lake that I've walked many times. I think it's like a little over 2 miles, maybe. I don't remember, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but that is my goal. When we go on that camping trip, that's my goal. I don't know if it'll happen, but I want to walk that trail. And I guess you'll have to watch the YouTube channel to see if I make it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And speaking of,
that's what I want to do. I really don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm going to give it the old college try.
Well, please share with everyone what your YouTube channel is so they can follow your journey.
My YouTube channel is Little Trauma Mama.
That's great.
That's a good name.
It is.
Because I'm 5'1", I'm very short, and trauma because I was a paramedic and I lived trauma, and mama because it rhymed and I'm a mom.
Very appropriate. Very
Absolutely.
appropriate.
Well, Christy, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us and for sharing your story with us. It is fascinating, and so happy that you came out the other side. That is
that you are here
amazing
and thriving. We are so happy to see that. Yeah, I bet your whole family is, and just enjoy.
Well, I will say I don't know about your situation, but my relationships now are much more, what's the word? They're just more special. They're more appreciated. My marriage, my relationship with my sister and family, it's just a whole new, I'm not trying to make it into like a romantic story at all, but there has been a lot of good that has come out of it. So I just want to keep focusing on that and live my life.
Absolutely. Well, it's great that you can see the good in it, because I'm sure it's not easy, and I'm also feel pretty confident that some days it's easier than others.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much. Yeah. This is, like I said, this has been fascinating. We really appreciate you taking time to share with us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So I guess that brings this episode to a close. I don't know that we got it done quicker. I think a little bit quicker than normal, but we're trying.
Yeah.
And we'll get there.
Yeah.
It's a learning process. I feel like you're disappointed in me.
I'm very disappointed. Not in you. I'm disappointed, though.
But anyway, and now you see why we're making some of the choices we make, because there's still like so much stuff that's going to be over on the Patreon. So if you want to hear all the stuff that didn't make the cut, you can go over there and listen to the clipped out.
It's all the stuff that got clipped.
Clipped out. So anyway, until next week, where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Crystal D. O'Keefe. They can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and the Peloton leaderboard at Clip Out Crystal.
And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online at facebook.com/The Clip Out. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, don't forget our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Clip Out. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep pedaling
and running
and rowing.